Alright, so what's going on, everybody? Most of you will be seeing this later once it is up and displayed on the Twitch profile. But welcome to the first episode of Why Is It Always Tarnished? This is going to be my Elden Ring lore podcast style of stream. So as you can see, we got the red lights going. I feel like we're in the Batmobile. I got my, don't make fun of me. See if you can see this. My 3 McGriddles. Just in case we need some fuel. But yeah, what is the stream going to be about? What is the podcast going to be about? Why Is It Always Tarnished came to me as an idea. After I've been playing Elden Ring, I've probably put in about, let's say, like 120 hours into 2 different characters. And I have so many questions still. So my true plan for this is to ensure that I at least learn something new each episode in regards to the lore. We'll start episode 1. This episode 1 is going to be started more so around the basic lore of Elden Ring. So if you guys check this out, currently, if you guys join the stream today or if you watch this later and you have been, playing as long as I have or even longer, you probably will know some of the stuff. Hopefully this brings in an audience of kind of a variety of everyone. That way, if you want to learn as well, you can kind of learn along with me. So why is it always tarnished? Episode 1. We are at the Elden Ring wiki page. We've got beautiful ads all over the place. So my plan here today is we're going to go through some of the basic lore from the first page here. As you can see on these tabs up here, plenty of options. So if you click on world here, you'll see that we'll have like world information, the map of Elden Ring, which we'll probably take a look at towards the middle or end of the stream. We got locations, which I want to take an early look at, and then a lot of the characters. I want to go ahead and take a look at some of the characters as well. In future episodes, we'll start getting into things like builds. I'm not really one to know a lot about PvP. So in future episodes, I definitely want to start to gain some knowledge on that. That way we can take my character, Von Lenser. If you guys haven't checked that out already, we have 2 streams up. We just started last week, so our schedule is Friday. We will be starting at 9 p.m. the Why Is It Always Tarnished podcast. And Saturday and Sunday, we will be going from 2 to 6, where I will be playing as my character, Commander Von Lenser. So, let me know what type of build that you started the game with. I've asked a couple people around my neck of the woods, and most seem to start with a strength build, which is very interesting. Maybe magic is maybe it seems like it would be just more complex and more complicated, but my second character that I have actually went into rebirth and decided to make that from a strength to a magic character, and it's been a pretty cool process. So it's basically just been me gathering up spells and stuff like that and making sure I'm strong and make sure I have all the right talismans and that stuff. But with that being said, you guys kind of understand the schedule now. Let's go ahead and let's go into a deep dive into the lore of Elden Ring. I'm not sure how long this episode is going to be. I'm not sure how long the podcast episodes will be in general. It's not like a set schedule like the gameplay is. The 2 to 6 p.m. streams like Saturday and Sunday. So this will be kind of, once people start filing in the future, we'll kind of take it however far it goes. So this episode will begin now. So The lore of Elden Ring. Lore in Elden Ring covers all information related to the world and mythos of the game, obviously, from past events that occurred long ago to the history of the lands between and the mystery of the elusive Elden Ring. That and all can be found here. So, one thing I did learn is who George R.R. Martin is. I did not know he was a huge part of the Game of Thrones series. So, and I've never watched that show. Let me know if you guys have as well or have not. But I mean, based on how popular that show is or was, I guess it still is. Everyone knows kind of what Game of Thrones is, even if they haven't watched it. But seeing that he was a part of that and then seeing he was a part of Elden Ring, it kind of makes sense of how deep I would say that Elden Ring's not necessarily. I can't really say if this story is deep or not because there's a lot of things I don't understand, and that's kind of why we're here. So I can definitely see the transition though. Like I think what I'm trying to say is I can see why it works based on like the fantasy aspect of him coming from Game of Thrones and adding his you know touch to this game. But there's plenty of things that we have to unravel in this episode, and there's just so many things to talk about. The mythos of Elden Ring was written by George R.R. Martin. Mythos refers to the overall narrative theme or plot structure. It can also be interpreted as a belief system. So, what that tells me is that he wrote the overall narrative theme and plot structure. So, that in itself is interesting. It also says the story of Elden Ring was written by Hidetaka Miyazaki. Hopefully, I'm not absolutely shafting that name, but it looks like his team and himself wrote it. It looks like from Software. So this is my first From Software game. I've never played a Dark Souls game in my life. I didn't even play Bloodborne. For some reason, those games always evaded me. I don't know why. I never really looked into it. I was pretty close to buying Bloodborne, like a year after it came out. I just never really got around to it. I don't know why, but yeah, this is my first From Software game, and I've been having a freaking blast. I actually really enjoy the combat system, magic wise, and really really like it in terms of like how the weapons work, the different weights, and how it feels like certain weapons feel weighty and certain other things feel lighter. Daggers, quick step, all that stuff. Ashes of War. But again, there's so much to talk about. We'll definitely get into some of that stuff in future episodes. The lore and story of Elden Ring are told in a similar manner to other From Software Souls games, so players should expect to find plenty left to interpretation, which I think is important to any story in my opinion, as well as seemingly contradictory statements about various game characters, elements, and concepts. So I think when I first entered the world of the lands between, probably the more, I guess you can label it as confusing, but I would say like more when I entered the world and you see the tree sentinel and you walk in, it's your first experience. You try to smack them up, but you get one shotted. Um, from the complaints that I've heard about the game, about it being confusing and too hard, or there's the quests aren't really like specifically set out, and I don't know where to go. I don't know where this person is. I can see the argument. I can see it. There's certain things where I'm kind of like how am I supposed to know where to go in that area? But I think it's kind of beneficial that we have the wiki pages of games, and we have YouTubers and people that are just outright smarter than I am in terms of you've got to do this. What I've noticed about this game is it's very important to read items and item descriptions. And what I've noticed also, and I haven't really heard people talk about this, but what I've noticed is that backtracking is like almost needed in this game. I haven't really heard people talk about that specifically. Get this car out of my face, dude. Um, but like backtracking is very important. A great example of that, and this won't really necessarily be a spoiler to anyone, but you can see this beautiful, beautiful lady here that we will get into. Uh, Hopefully in this episode, there's a video that I saved on my YouTube channel, Gerent Heights. Go check that out. Um, there's a video I saved about that character, but an example of backtracking would be when you hit gate front and you kind of clear gate front out, and that's the kind of like the first wave of, or technically second wave of enemies that you, well, for being honest, technically the third wave of enemies you would see, including the tree sentinel. But you get to gate front, let's say you clear it out and you get the place of grace there. You talk to Melena, which we will get into in that episode, who that is. You get your horse, you get Torrent, and from there you're basically like, and I remember in my first playthrough, I didn't really necessarily think like from that point like, all right, I'm gonna go random place. Like I think some people did that, and I think that's honestly welcomed. Exploration is a huge part of this game, but from that point, I had met a merchant, which we'll get into his name and his location. But you meet a merchant, and from that point, I was kind of inclined to go back to that merchant because I had cleared gate front out finally, and I was like, okay, let me go back to the merchant and see if I can buy better armor, or let's see actually what he has in store now that I have some runes in my, you know, in my pocket. And I go back there, and you meet this character again, which we'll get into later. But from that point, people would probably assume, how was I supposed to know like to go back there to meet her? If, and you know, I'm not sure if people have missed out on that character or missed out on, you know, that certain what she gives you, but I don't feel like it was necessarily like told to me to go back there or told us to go back there, but I felt inclined to go back there. So you almost are not necessarily rewarded, but backtrack. Like when I backtracked to that point, I was, again, let's just say rewarded with what the item that she gives you, and a whole nother, opening up a whole different part of this game, which we'll probably talk about in later episodes, based on the item that she gives you, and some argument, not necessarily argument, but some, you know, opinions based on that. But just very interesting. I won't read all of this, but I will read probably to the first three little uh, paragraph type deals. So Elden Ring lore. The storyteller folds her slender hands, both pairs, and speaks. It happened an age ago. But when I recall, I see it true. So begins the tale of the shattering, a devastating war between the children of Marika, demigods of the lands between. One grim night in the depths of winter, a flock of unknown assassins stole across the lands between. In a, what word is this, dude? In a coeternous, dude, butchered, bruh, attack, this foul covenant snuffed out the lives of many of the god queen's kin throughout the empire. Too numerous and too scattered for her godly protection to save. The assassins' targets were multifold, but none was as devastating a loss to the eternal queen as that of Godwyn the Golden, which is a name, through as many hours as I've played this game, I couldn't tell you who he is. I'm just going to be honest. I haven't been thorough enough through my playthrough to know who that is. That's why we're here. After his death, the Elden Ring was somehow shattered and the order of the world broke with it. You know what? I'll actually read through this. This is pretty interesting because, again, I haven't even really been through this myself. Out of this chaos came war. Open, bitter war, pitting blood against blood and kin against kin. The conflict broke a vast and prosperous empire into brittle fragments. No single side could find enough purchase to maintain a decisive victory, even when fueled by the power of a great rune. Great runes in this game, fire. Very fire. The Battle of General Radahn, character, fire. The Battle of General Radahn against Melina, I haven't got her yet, but we'll see how that goes on my playthrough. Check me out Saturday, Sunday, 2 to 6 p.m. The Battle of General Radahn against Melina, the Severed, illustrated that neither strength nor skill alone would be enough to take control of the entirety of the lands America had united. And so the lands between are no longer gripped by open war, but caught in an uneasy stalemate that seems impossible to resolve. Interesting. Unless, of course, the storyteller says, a coy smile on her lips, thou shalt take the crown. Question mark, dude. Take a deeper dive into the carefully crafted mythology of George R.R. Martin, author of the New York Times best-selling fantasy series, A Song of Fire and Ice, which I learned in a prior lore video that I checked out. We won't watch that video, at least on this episode. Maybe we'll check it out later, but I didn't know he wrote those books. In the world created by From Software based on his work in this new trailer available here, which I don't think we're going to take a look at. Transported to ages long ago, you will relive the shattering, a war that brought darkness to the lands between. Excuse me. Bless me. Initiated by demigods' hunger for power, you'll fight alongside General Radahn and Melania the Severed. What? But even these two undefeatable warriors couldn't reunite a world so badly broken. There is only one hope left, the hope that a new Elden Lord will rise and lift the veil of shadows that has fallen over America's domain. The wait is over. Well, technically it's over now. You'll soon venture into the lands between and strive to become its Elden Lord. Stand ready, Tarnished, and prepare to claim what fate has promised you. So a great little dive into some backstory of one of my favorite games I've played. Let me know what your opinion is of the game so far, how long you've played it, or if you have not even played it, if you're not interested in it. I'm very curious. Again, being it that is my first From Software game, very interesting. So we won't go ahead and read through that, but this is a couple of things I want to go through in this section. This will probably be, I want to go through these two. We won't get into theories today. I think that's probably something that we'll leave for later episodes just because of, possible spoilers and things like that. But it's definitely something I will get into in future episodes. Pizza, dude? What's up, dude? Okay, so this will be the last two things we take a look at on this page, and then I want to start getting into hopefully some locations, and we'll go through some maybe some creatures and enemies. We'll go through some NPCs. I don't know if I want to go through bosses today just based off of, I don't want to spoil things. And then I have a YouTube video here, The Truth About Elden Ring Lore by AGT Jake. So go subscribe to him. We're going to watch his video and react to it in a little bit once we go over some more Elden Ring lore on the wiki. So, The Tarnished. In the opening of the official reveal trailer that was presented in E3 2021, we see a softly spoken hooded woman saying the Tarnished will return soon. The question is, who and what is the Tarnished? Simply put, you are the Tarnished. As the player, you are one of the Tarnished that have been exiled upon losing their blessing of grace granted by the Elden Ring, and the Erd Tree, a tree that hosts source and life of the lands between. Very much like previous Soul games, where you are the chosen undead or the Ashen One. So, that, again, I'm not familiar with that, but I think it is very important for a game company to kind of stick to their roots. And from what it seems and what I've heard, it does a pretty good job of kind of tying in. I think so. It'll be what, Demon Souls. You got Dark Souls, Bloodborne. From what I've heard and watching certain reviews and certain people on YouTube, it seems like they've done a pretty good job keeping it in the family of From Software titles, which I think it's perfect. Very much like previous Soul games, where you are the chosen undead Ashen. Beautiful. After the shattering of the Elden Ring, you are then called back by this lost grace to the lands between, along with other Tarnished, to recover the shards of the Elden Ring, to make them whole once again, and to become the Elden Lord of the lands between. Again, I am on that quest myself. According to Hidetaka Miyazaki, hopefully I didn't again shaft that, in an interview, I feel like one of the main themes of the game is how the player, the Tarnished, approaches or treats this newfound grace and this return to the land that they were once banished from, how they interpret this and the meaning. It's not just the player character, of course. It's lots of excuse me. It's lots of characters in the game who are all beckoned back and will have their own adventures and motives, which I think is a pretty good explanation of it. There is some guys and girls that you, or even beasts that you encounter in this world, that are on a specific journey, and it's very, one of the characters I'll go into a little bit more depth, but Alexander, one of my favorite characters, and from what I've heard, a lot of people love the character. Kind of going through his quest myself, that's kind of, he has his own motives, he has his own quest, and it's an interesting thing. It's when you join a world where you can create a character, for me, and they give you this many options to kind of just, you're obviously, you know, trying to become Elden Lord. That is the main focus of the game. But when you get to create your own character, you can role play to a point where, yes, that is your goal, but you get to meet, you know, NPCs along the way and characters along the way that are on their own journey, and you can help hurt them in their quest, you know. And it's just so open to interpretation and open to kind of doing your own thing, that I feel like it's a benefit to the game. It can be confusing at times, and again, that is why we are here. I'm trying to get as much information implanted in my brain, that way when I go back into the world, I can be refreshed and I understand a little bit more. Again, the main thing for this podcast is why, first off, why have I not eaten this McGriddle yet? Because it's straight cold. But the main reason for this is we want to learn at least one thing that is new per episode. That's very important to me. If we can learn one or two things, you know, I'm perfectly happy. But at least one thing new we will learn. Boom, 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 boom. Where did we leave off? We want the player to discover for themselves what that means and how they want to begin their adventure. 100% agree. And then lastly, we will go into this part here. We will finish with this, and then we're going to start getting into characters, NPCs. So let's see. The Lands Between is the world of Elden Ring, and those who live in the Lands Between were blessed by grace through the Elden Ring and the Erd Tree. Those who are blessed by the Elden Ring are characterized by having a golden aura that can be seen in their eyes. So there is certain characters in the game where I've seen that take place, but that is interesting. However, at some point, some of those who were blessed lost their grace. They were exiled and labeled the Tarnished. So that aspect in itself, I wouldn't say, what up, boy? Strikes in the building, dude. Strike Heights. Let's get it. Hold on. This is for you, dude. Ooh, it's kind of cold now. Shit, now I have to eat this. Mm, 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 mm. Woo. That's a great McGriddle, bro. Dude, I lost my train of thought, dude. ADHD, HD, dude. ADHD in full HD, cuz on everything. Oh, let's see. Where were we? Oh, but yeah, they were exiled and labeled the Tarnished. That is something I don't feel is like made for everyone to be like, okay, we are banished. Like we didn't, as characters and as players, we didn't see that happen. Like we didn't see us lose the power and be banished. So that is something I don't think necessarily has to be like fully clear, and I think that's what makes it slightly more mysterious. We gotta really dig into it more, and possibly I've heard rumblings about DLC. Maybe we get a not necessarily like a prequel, but maybe we get something a visual of what happened before. But it's not a very cutscene heavy game, so we shall see. But I do like the aspect that it's not completely clearly set in stone of what certain things are. As time passed, for unknown reasons, the Elden Ring was shattered, and its shards were scattered across the lands between. The largest of these pieces were called Great Runes and were claimed by the six demigod children of Queen Marika the Eternal, causing them to inherit different powers and have been physically changed and twisted due to being corrupted by the power of these runes. So, with that being said, that's number one thing I just learned. So, that might be more self explanatory than to other people, but I didn't know that. Again, 120 something hours in the game. I understood the Great Runes were part of the Elden Ring. I'm pretty sure that, that makes sense. But with let's see, shattered across the lands between, the largest of these pieces were called Great Runes and were claimed by the six demigod children, so basically the bosses of the game, but causing them to inherit different powers and have been physically changed and twisted due to being corrupted by the power of these runes. So that's interesting. Um, One thing about this game, tying into that, not necessarily just the bosses, you see it throughout the game, but there's so many different enemy types in this game. It is unbelievable. It is unbelievable. The only game, and I was talking to Strike Warrior about this. I don't even know if it was on stream, but I was talking to him in the Xbox party chat. Never have I played a game. Not once have I played a game to this level of you go to an area, you see the enemies, you visualize it. Okay, boom. I see these type of enemies. For example, let's just say you see like the soldiers that kind of filter around the Limgrave area, starting Gatefront area, let's say. So okay, like we see some knights, and we see that. Uh, Not to go too far into the future, but you get to, let's say, Stormgate Castle, or Stormville Castle rather. You get to Stormville, and you come across these certain knights that make the Gatefront Knight look like, how can I say this without being mean? The knights that you meet in Stormvale Castle make the Gatefront Knight look like a piece of rotten, folded, discolored, moldy garbage. And when I figured this out, my udders were pulled simultaneously multiple times in Stormville Castle. Just absolute udder pulling. Just absolute udder pulls. And from that point, right, you explore the game, and again, being 120 hours in, but specifically for my main character that I've been running, 58 hours is where I'm sitting at with that character. I still find myself saying, what is that? What are those? What kind of attack is that? How am I supposed to beat this boss or this enemy? I haven't played a game that's done that. And I not necessarily would say, and again, I have to finish it and, you know, continue to play, but is it the greatest game of all time? I don't know. That's up to everyone's, interpretation. But it's a damn good game. It's a damn good game. I know that. Is it a 10 out of 10? I don't know, but it's a damn good game. The replay value is out of the roof. It's crazy. Um, but the only game I would say that kind of gives that same enemy variety would probably be like The Witcher 3, which is personally my favorite game I've ever played. Still my favorite game to this date. Again, I got to finish this one, but yeah, The Witcher 3 has a special place in my heart. But even compared to that, and again, it's not necessarily to compare games, but just to give Elden Ring props on the enemy types, and even if you see the same enemy or an enemy that you thought you saw before, they could have different skill sets and different powers and different spells that they do, or even different weapons too, which is, it just adds to the replay value in my opinion. So here we go. The lands between is divided into 7 distinct areas. You have Limgrave, Caelid, Liurnia of the Lakes, the Altus Plateau, Mount Gelmir, Mountaintops of the Giants, which I just got to, and then the River Kingdoms Underground, which I don't even know what that is. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what that is. Unless they're referring to like, I don't want to get too far for people who haven't played, just to, stop from having spoilers, but unless they're referring to like the Sephora River, that kind of stuff. I don't know what the River Kingdoms is, dude. Each seen. Each overseen by a demigod and features a central overworld that connects all of these areas. According to an interview with Miyazaki, players will have total freedom as to the order that they want to tackle for each area. That is true. That is true. There is some locations that, specifically Caelid, that I had a really rough time with at certain points. Even later in my build, even over level 100, there's areas in Caelid where I'm like, I don't know, dude. If I can do this, it's crazy. But I love that option. That it's not specifically told you go here, go here. Like, you're gonna go places, you're gonna find out that it's probably not the best plan. Let's see here. Each overseen by a demigod, yes. Players will have total freedom as to the order they want to tackle for each area, and it is up to the player on how they want to approach it. The hub area, similar to Firelink Shrine or Majula in previous games, will not be accessible at the beginning of the game, which means you will need to progress the game until you reach the hub area. So that, for certain players, could maybe be a very confusing experience. And again, it happened naturally. I'll just kind of say it. It's not really that big of a spoiler for those who haven't played the game or who are going through like blind playthroughs and stuff like that. It's a place called the Round Table Hold is what this is referring to. I would assume. And yeah, for me, it just kind of happened naturally. I ended up doing certain actions, and I just kind of ended up there. Like if you kind of, it just, again, it's a natural progression. I felt like certain things in the game, not really, but when it comes to meeting a certain character and then getting to this hub area, I thought, at least for me, the way I played the game, it felt pretty natural, and there's some exploring that I was able to do prior to finding that hub area, but I felt like it came naturally, and it felt like, okay, you know what, I'm, I felt like I was ready to be there, and it felt timed pretty good. Let me just make sure we don't want to check anything else out here. Let's see. Okay, so from there, okay, so we got some basic lore, um, not too much, specifically, but, or more so specifically towards like the Tarnished. Who are we? Well, I felt like now I kind of understand that more. And then the lands between, I understood the areas and, the seven distinct areas. Well, for me, six, I understood. The seventh, not so much, but that I felt pretty comfortable with, it being the Tarnished, knowing what the lands between are, and yeah, I think we're okay with that. So going to the world now. Let's actually take a look at the map. We can here. So that's something we can definitely go over. So let's take a look first off of the lands between. So open up this will open up a page for us to see. So I guess it's technically a spoiler, but here are the 7 regions and how the map looks. There is, again, places I have not been, and I mean, just looking at the map, I want to go play. It makes me want to go play. It's so funny. Um, this is what I wanted to bring up. In terms of having a favorite area, my favorite area, can I zoom in on this? Yes, I can. My favorite area in this game, whoops, has to be the Altus Plateau area right in this section here. If you guys know what I'm referring to, this section here, when I saw, and it sucks because I wasn't able to discover it myself. I actually ended up kind of just coming across a video where I was like, I gotta go here. But this area in this region, when you get there, at least for me, it was a very interesting experience. So to go in a little bit more, you get map fragments and markers. At first, the map is not complete, which I love, because again, that brings in the exploration aspect of it, and I think exploration in open world games obviously is an important thing, but for this game specifically, I think it's huge. It's like one of the main aspects of the game is really exploring. I actually find myself backtracking, like we talked about earlier, backtracking and exploring areas where I either forgot or I held off because I wasn't strong enough, and I just lost my train of thought and thought like, oh shoot, I actually have to go back to this area and discover some stuff. And I actually went ahead and did that today. And if you guys come check out the stream tomorrow, we'll actually go ahead and do that as well. Just go back and discover some things that we haven't discovered. Let's see here. Steles are marked on the unexplored map, and they are generally easy to reach, not very far from the main roads. You can add up to 100 personal markers on your map. I did not know that. I don't know why you would need 100, but that's interesting in itself. So yeah, finding the map markers in the game, not too difficult, I would say. You get a little hint on the map when you are in a certain area where you can locate that next map fragment. But in terms of if I have a favorite area, again, like I said earlier, it's like that northern part of the Altus Plateau is just mwah. The color schemes. I'm very big on fall colors, and that place is just. I just wanted to make, like, I almost wanted the whole game to be in that location. That's another thing too. The location, the enemy types and how many different enemy types there are. You could say the same for the 7, or again, for me, the 6 regions I've been to. The difference in them is huge, and it's just like you feel like you're in a different world each time when you go underground for the first time. I won't spoil too much, but when you go underground for the first time, you're like, what? Like there is huge underground portions of this game. It's unbelievable how much detail is in this game. So there's that. I also wanted to get into, let's see here. Let's start with our NPCs. So there's some I won't talk about. You can read the name and stuff like that, but there's some I will not talk about just due to maybe them being on a different later episode. But I want to go into a couple of characters here and go ahead and talk about some things that I mentioned earlier. So probably the first person you talk to in the game. Let's see if I can have him on here. Well, he should be the first person that you talk to in the game. Where is my brother at? Here he is. White Mask Varay, a curious and pompous man that that many come across at Limgrave early on in the game, will offer some advice. So, when I said backtracking was important, another important aspect I think to really knowing where to go or what a certain NPC wants from you, or to explain what that NPC is going to do or where they're going to be, you have to make sure that you continue to the conversation until they begin repeating themselves. That's something I didn't learn for probably like the first maybe 30 minutes to an hour of the game. No, not even. I'm tripping. I'm pretty sure I figured that out in the first time talking. I don't know what I'm talking about. But maybe some people did struggle with that. But you have to ensure that you keep pressing Y and continue the conversation until they can start repeating themselves. That way, you've finished their dialogue, and at least from that point. So, for example, you talk to White Mask Foray when you enter Limgrave and you start the game. Finishes dialogue. Okay, boom, that's fine. You move on. You get to Gatefront, and you're doing a couple things. There is a reason to come back to that specific spot. If you have a stone sword key, there is a little portion which I suggest probably coming back to later, unless it's like you've been there before on a different character and you feel comfortable going down into this little dungeon area with the stone sword key. But it gives you a reason to actually come back to this area, and if you talk to him again, I'm not sure how many have done that. Sure, plenty of you have. But if you go back to him, he will indeed have a different dialogue. And he will ask certain things and make certain statements where you're like, oh, okay. Like, I actually ended up doing that and kind of made me like open my eyes a little bit. Like, you know what? Like, I've watched videos on people and how they were struggling with it not being like a full-fledged like do this, where's this character going to be? But it really opened my eyes and made me, you know what, like you really have to backtrack and go back and talk to people and make sure something new didn't pop up. What I don't hear people saying enough, and not necessarily like this is like real life, but it's, to me, it makes it feel slightly, I don't know how to say this, because obviously we have like cell phones and stuff. Like if we want to become Elden Ring, we just like become Elon Musk or something, right? But in terms of like the aspect of backtracking, going back to like technically like check up on people and see if anything's different, it slightly reminds me of like a real world type of aspect in terms of a fantasy setting. You know, you could write letters and things like that, but in a fantasy setting, you're not necessarily gonna like, you know, if because there's characters in this game that you'll talk to them and they don't really give you anything. They don't tell you where they're gonna be. They don't say I'm gonna do this specifically. Some of them do, but you know, a lot of them don't. And through exploration, sometimes you'll come across that character again and you'll be like, what the heck? And it's like refreshing. You're like, oh, shoot, like that's where they went. In a fantasy aspect, that makes sense to me because if you were in Elden Ring, let's say in that world, and some character didn't tell you where they're going to go, a game that's more linear, maybe, and it's not a shame, it's not a bad thing, but maybe, like, let's, for example, say a game I put in a lot of hours, Fallout 4. You, you get a map marker and you know what you have to do, right? And again, that's not a knock on the game. I love that game. That's just an aspect that is part of that, is part of the game. But for this, if you put yourself in the game, you really role play it and you really get knee deep into it, like we're doing. If you're in a fantasy setting, like if you're placing, like let's pretend you're placing yourself in this and you become your character. If a character doesn't tell you where they're going, why would you need a map marker to be like they're gonna be here, right? They're not gonna tell you what they're doing. You're gonna eventually meet them, through exploration, through your travels. You're gonna see them again. You'll see them again. It's not like you're not gonna see them again, right? But it almost is like an additional, like, ooh, like discovery, right? And it's interesting. To me, that's interesting. Like, it's again not necessarily like real world realistic, but in a fantasy setting, if I put myself in my character's shoes and someone didn't tell me straight up that they were gonna do something, I would say like it's pretty accurate. To it's pretty accurate. Another character. Actually, let me see if we can go in a little bit more depth to Mr. White Mask Foray. He is encountered near the start of the game. The first sight of grace. Oh, excuse me. And will offer advice to the player. He can be found multiple times in different locations as the story progresses, which I've figured out through exploration. I wouldn't think, wow, this person should be here. Right? That's something that I've noticed. They kind of end up sometimes in spots where you're like, why are you here? I think it's cool. I think it's awesome. Let's see here. Let's try not to spoil too much. He will be the very first NPC you speak to at the beginning of the game. Yes, found in Limgrave by the first step, Sight of Grace. I don't think this is too much of a spoiler as of now. After defeating Godric the Grafted or obtaining any of the Great Runes and talking to Enya for the first time at the Round Table Hold, White Mask Foray can be found at Rose Church in a large island southwest of Liurnia. I was just kidding, that's kind of a spoiler. Shoot. Maybe we won't go too deep into that. Sheesh. Alright. Melania. Melania is first met during the beginning of the Tarnished journey. Get this ad out of my freaking face, dude. And will approach them as they are resting and will propose an accord, which I think you guys should accept that proposal. It's very important to the exploration of the game. Fun fact also, you get and again, not too much, it's not going to really spoil too much. What she gives you is the power to turn runes into strength, which is basically leveling your character up. She gives you Torrent, which is the horse. Okay. And again, get this ad out of my mug, dude. Freaking piece of garbage. She gives you Torrent. So, fun fact, and I did this purposely because I knew you got torrent. I actually didn't use torrent for the first, I would say, like, damn, probably the first 2 hours of the game. I did not hop on my horse at all. I decided, like, I'm gonna explore on foot like a freaking weirdo. Now that I understand that you need him, it's kind of like I'm glad I am using him now. But there was a point where I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and like just go on foot and see what happens. But Melania is an interesting character. That she seems mysterious, and I still am kind of like, what is she? That is something I'm not too sure about. Let me see if I can get a little bit more info on her. She is a mysterious young lady seen in an opening cutscene with Torrent, the spirit steed. Let's click on him real quick. He's a badass, dude. Look how cool Torrent is, dude. Freaking sick. Melina wears a black robe and approaches players while they are resting at different sites of grace. She offers guidance throughout the game, grants the ability to level up, and teleports you to certain key areas. Again, like we talked about earlier, Roundtable Hold is something that she will help out with. She also later becomes available as an NPC summon. I didn't know that. Shit. I did not know that. It's interesting. I honestly had no idea that was a thing. That's very interesting. Okay. Won't spoil too much about her quest line. My guy, Iron Fist Alexander, one of the true, just standouts of the game, in my opinion. Just a freaking great character. Iron Fist Alexander is a large living jar who set out from his home one day in search of adventure, seeking to become a mighty warrior. He also becomes available as an NPC summon cooperator when he can fight alongside players. For future episodes, I'm just going to say it now. I'm currently fighting the fire giant. Alexander is putting in work, but I am getting just absolutely, utterly destroyed by this thing. I'm level 113, and I feel underleveled, but I'm not sure because I've gotten him down pretty good. It's going to take me some time to really understand his moves. And he has a big plate. He has a big dinner plate. He just slaps the freaking taste off your lips. It's very annoying. Very, very annoying. All right. But yeah, for those of you who don't know who that is, he's a fantastic character. Very great character in this game. So this one here, the beautiful lady, Rena, a strange blue witch with 4 arms. Players will encounter her at the Church of Ella, which will be here. This is another character we'll talk about. Or actually, I'll just go into him now. Merchant Calais, kindly and welcoming merchant found within the structure of the Church of Ella in Limgrave. Sells many useful beginner items. So you meet her, like I was talking about backtracking earlier. You will eventually you'll actually end up meeting her. I don't know why I'm not speaking English, dude. You will eventually meet her, and her character is one character that I'm kind of still like, who are you? I think I'm starting to understand a little bit, but I definitely want to go deeper into it. Excuse me. Oh, man. I want to go deeper into it to kind of, or into her character and to really understand. But the big thing, she teaches you how to summon spirits. That is a huge portion of this game for noobs like me. I love me some summons. I love them. Love them, love them, love them. So let's see if we can figure out some new stuff about Miss Rena. A blue humanoid character that has 4 arms and 2 faces. Something I didn't notice at first in the game, but when I discovered it, I was like, what the heck? Rena will give you the ability to summon spirits at a specific point in the game. These spirits come in different forms, including magic, skeletons, wolves, and many more. Rena will leave after teaching you how to summon spirits. So from that point, you kind of are like, okay, like you kind of feel, you're left feeling like you won't see her again. Um, like there's really no need to see her again. Like she gives you something, and you're like, oh, okay. Like maybe you will, but you're not really expecting it. I don't think. Maybe some people did, but I didn't really look at her as like, oh, I'm gonna see her again. Excuse me. I think it's Red Bull time, dude. Ugh. Cheers, dude. Oh, we will go over. That's my guy right here. So that is Rena. Let's see if there's anyone else I want to go over in this episode. Let's see here. Boom, boom, boom. Let's go through Rani the Witch, or Ronnie the Witch, because I want to understand. Obviously, you can see they look like each other. A mysterious woman sitting on the top floor of Rani's rise at Three Sisters looks suspiciously like someone you've met before. Yes, she does. Rani the Witch is a mysterious figure who introduces herself as Rena. Upon meeting her again at Three Sisters, she reveals her true name and eventually will recruit you into her servitude, sending you off in search of a hidden treasure. This page covers vital information from her questline, which we will not get into in this episode. I'm not sure if we'll get into that soon, honestly, just because it is a very, first off, Googleable questline that I won't lie, I've definitely looked into it to kind of understand some more stuff and find certain characters. But that's something we could probably go to in a future episode. Let me see here. Okay, so from there, I think we're okay. And then lastly, the last thing we'll go through on this wiki page until we after we go through the creatures and enemies, we will go through and watch this video again created by AJT Jake on YouTube. So again, give him a comment and a subscription. I'm about to subscribe to him after as well, and let him know. I'll actually do that right now. You deserve this, sir. Let him know that Gerent Heights sent you if you do eventually see this, so we can give him his credit. But we'll check that out after this. So I won't go too deep into, specifics too much. I just really wanted to show you this. Wildlife of the lands between, hostile humanoids in the lands between. This talking is zapping my energy, man. Jeesh. Just look at this. NPC invaders. Something very cool and I like about this in this game. But look at. Insane. Absolutely insane. I hate these. Ooh. Ooh, you guys know what location I'm talking about when I say I hate these pieces of garbage, dude. Oh my gosh. I'll just give you guys a brief little run through. I love these dudes, bruh. I wish you could have like a summon of 100 of these and they just freaking bite the ankles of your freaking boss that you fight. That would be sick. Teardrop scarabs, very, very interesting thing in the game. I really, really like that. I hate golems with the I hate these idiots, dude. Hate them. I love the trolls in this game. The skeletal enemies in this game, very interesting. I won't spoil too much, but very. Ooh, it's 10:17. Shout out to Gucci Mane, dude. Very interesting way of combat with them. If you guys know what I'm talking about. Let's see. Misbegons are becoming some of my favorites. Well, yeah. Great unique enemy in this game. Love it. Really, really like it, man. What other stuff we got here? Let me see something real quick too. Whoops. Do 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 do. Yeah, I don't want to go too much into detail on specific enemies, and again, you can just kind of read it for yourself. But I just want to show you the complete, like, utter, just amazing amount of enemy types and beast types and humanoids, and it's like, oh my gosh, one of my absolute favorites in this game, pumpkin heads, bro. When I figured out that you can actually get this and wear it on my first character, I did it. And oh my gosh, just hilarious that you could even have that option. I didn't even really think about it like, oh, you can get the helmet. I didn't think about it. But it's just, this game is just, there's so much stuff. So much stuff in this game. Like, we're still going. Still going, still going, still going. Like, just so many types of enemies. Okay, so from here, that's going to do it for episode 1 in terms of the wiki. We'll go into some other aspects of the game later. Probably going to get into some character information, give you guys some backstory on the keeps. Let me see what it is. The keepsakes, maybe like the starting stats, and that for episode 2 next Friday at 9 p.m. Why Is It Always Tarnished podcast the episode 2 will be based more so on beginning your character. For those of you who don't have the game yet or haven't started the game yet, that will be kind of an episode dedicated for you guys. Or even if you're, a veteran already of this game and you just want to make a new character for whatever reason, maybe this will give you some inspiration. So next week at 9 p.m. we will be going over some character items for episode 2. But with that being said, let's head over to YouTube. We're going to head over to YouTube and we're going to watch The Truth About Elden Ring Lore. It's an 8-minute, 51-second video. I'm curious to see what this is about. I watched like the first minute of it and I thought, this is going to be interesting. I want to know, other people's opinions and things like that. So, with that being said, I'm going to take a quick verbal break. That way I can get some food in my system and stop yawning, as well as let you guys enjoy this video with me. There will be certain points where I will stop it just so we can discuss some things, but let's take a look at this. The Truth About Elden Ring Lore, again, by AGT Jake. Let's check it out.
So the lore in Elden Ring is probably one of the most complicated pieces of storytelling I've ever tried to understand. One day I'll believe something about the overall theme and the objective of the game, and the next day I'll believe something completely different based on some item description I read off of some random flower. Everything seems to connect, while at the same time discrediting everything else. I've spent the better part of this year completely dedicated to learning and understanding the world of Elden Ring. The moment I think I'm getting somewhere is also the moment where I'm the most confused. It's like the game is designed to be confusing, and that's likely because it was designed this way. Trying to connect all of the dots when it comes to Elden Ring lore is next to impossible. The best way for all of us to get concrete evidence about what certain things mean and connect to are the item descriptions we can read on almost every item in the game.
And that is 100%. I'm glad he made that a point, because honestly, it's so important. Just adding the extra element of actually, like how certain games have collectibles. You just pick them up and it's like, oh, okay, I have a freaking note that says, I just got my udders pulled by, what's his name? Freaking Godric, right? My udders just got milked by him, right? And that's it. This game, you will get collectibles or you'll get items, weapons if you read it, it's going to give you more of a description of certain things, and it makes the experience way better. And I've started to understand why it's important to really actually read things.
The only reason I say concrete evidence is because it's plain as day, written down by the developers to tell us what something is, what it does, and what it means. The rest of the evidence we can gather from the game on the lore isn't concrete in the slightest. Dialogue is important in helping us understand the intentions of other characters we meet in the game, but I think it's important to note that even NPCs in the game can be wrong. All the characters have their own beliefs, perspectives, and intentions. The path one character has journeyed on by the time we meet and talk to them can be drastically different from another character. That goes without saying. But it's not like we haven't been manipulated into thinking one thing based on what one character says, and we only learn later on that they were just trying to swindle us and trick us into just doing what they wanted. So I guess I shouldn't say that some characters are wrong. They're just as confused as we are. Or they just believe something different from us because they've had a different experience in the lands between than we have. And that just goes to show why there seems to be such a divide in the community about the lore of Elden Ring. It's because we've all had different experiences while playing the game. We're all going to have different interpretations of what something means, what a character says, and what the environment is trying to tell us.
Another great point. I think that's so super true, especially the part where he said, what was he saying? How I think just the specific everyone's specific what's it called experience isn't going to be exactly the same, or even relatively similar, and the aspect of, certain characters saying something and someone saying, oh, he's probably gonna do this, or the other person being like, nah bro, like, what are you talking about, they're doing this. Like, I think it's, again, leaving things up for interpretation, in my opinion, sometimes can be a little too, like, okay, that's just like you're trying to be too mysterious. I think it fits well in this game.
It's all going to be different for each person because we're all different people with our own thoughts, beliefs, aspirations, doubts, achievements, guidance, and ultimately experiences. And that's the entire point of the game, for every player to have their own unique experiences while playing the game. And
Yes.
sure, there's guiding lights that tell us where to go and weird characters telling us what to do, but how many of us actually followed that line to a T and listened to the first character we met? Well, apparently a lot of people did, and got tilted from it when it led us straight to one of the hardest opening bosses in all of video game history.
I will say, the fighting this piece of garbage, I'm gonna be honest with you. First time Dark Souls or FromSoft player, they made it out to seem like this fool was like Lucifer, bro. Like Lucifer himself, like, had spawned, and that's like, dude, that's the first you fight, bro. The amount of udders he's pulled across the Elden Ring community, countless udders, bro.
people will see this as annoying, get absolutely destroyed by Margit, and quit the game because they think it's too hard, they're too bad at the game, and they'll never be able to make it past this obstacle. Then there's the other type of person who won't follow that light whatsoever and go explore every area of the map, find resources to upgrade their weapons, defeat every enemy in a certain area, thoroughly search every dungeon and hidden area, and they won't even know Margit exists until about 40 hours into their first playthrough.
Which, I wish I would have, like, did that a little more in the beginning. But once I've watched a couple of videos when I was first starting out. I watched a couple of videos, people saying, oh, you don't need to worry about dying. Like, just explore, build up your stats, build up your character, and then go see the boss. Like, don't worry about it. And once I heard that, like, I was already starting to do that before anyways, because I'm like, I don't think I'm strong enough to fight Margit. Like, I honestly, felt like just I was getting destroyed. So I'm like, let me go do something else. And then I eventually watched a video where someone said to do that exact thing, and I was like, okay, and now I feel better, like, because I didn't quit. It's not like I'm not gonna play the game, but um, it's more the aspect of just like you do realize you don't have to just continue to fight this guy. Like, go do something, just go do something else. Go explore something else and see what you can find. And what I've like, for example, the fire giant I'm fighting right now, I went back to him because the first couple times I fought him, it wasn't a thing. It wasn't even a contest. And so I've leveled up a couple times, and I went back to him just to see, just to check his temperature, because I know that fire he has in his belly, on his eyeball thing, whatever he has on his freaking chest. I know his fire burns hotter than shite. And so I'm like, you know what? Let me go back and check his temperature. I figured out you could use Alexander in the fight, so of course I'm going to use him with my Mimic tier. And I still can't beat him. So what happened is I was getting extremely frustrated. I was telling Strike Warrior, I want to punch a hole directly through my monitor, and that's it. But what happens is I fight him probably like 5 times, and I'm like, you know what? Like, yeah, 5 or 6 times, I'm like, I just kind of feel underleveled. Like, maybe I honestly, I'm not the best at the game, but once that happens to me like 6 times, I'm kind of like, you know what? Like, I'm gonna get frustrated if I continue to do it. Maybe I eventually do beat him after a couple hours, right? I did have him pretty low on health. Specifically the first time I fought him, which I came back today and tried to do it. But yeah, it's one of those games where it could get really freaking frustrating. Honestly, you can kind of feel like you're being cheated out, but at the same time, it's like, just go do something else. And that's what I did. I went and discovered a bunch of things, and I found this new location, and I completely forgot about the fire giant, and now I'm having a bunch of fun again. Like, that's all it is. It's not meant to like enrage you and like make you want to quit the game. Like, no, just go do something else. Clap some cheeks, dude. Go one shot some things in certain areas, and you'll feel like a freaking god again. And then you through that you'll go to other areas which will be a little bit more challenging. You'll beat those bosses. You'll beat those mini bosses, mid bosses, whatever. And like, you'll level up, you'll get levels up, and then I'll go back to the fire giant. Like, that's a super important part of this game.
This is just an example of what I'm talking about. We are all going to have different experiences, which is why we're all going to have different interpretations of the lore presented to us in a completely non-linear way, because the game is completely open and non-linear itself. This non-linear storytelling is not bad storytelling. It's completely by design. It's meant to match the experience of the game itself, and it's meant to be up to interpretation of the player and their own personal journey through the game, and then coming up with theories made by everyone in the community. When I make my lore videos, I receive a ton of comments that just say, no, this is completely wrong, followed by paragraphs of describing their own theory on that subject. And I think saying a theory in Elden Ring could be straight up wrong is like someone telling you your taste in coffee is wrong. Just because I like a little cream and sugar with my coffee doesn't mean you drinking straight black decaf is wrong.
If you drink straight black coffee, bruh, you are a different level of heathen, bruh.
I could think you're weird for doing and thinking that and tell you my own preference, but you aren't wrong for thinking that way. I think most people who think certain theories can be wrong are likely players who are mostly new to the Souls games. They just don't understand that the creators of these games purposely tell stories like this. I think Zoli the Witch said it perfectly in a recent tweet where she said, "Something to always keep in mind with lore discussion and From Software is that Miyazaki isn't interested in correct lore. From deliberately denies you information so you can't really be certain. What Miyazaki wants is for you to guess, to engage in media speculation." And this is exactly what I'm trying to say. We aren't meant to know the full story, and we aren't meant to know definitive information on anything. It's all up to interpretation. It's all up to your own imagination. From Software does this because they respect you as a player and a person. They believe that you're smart enough to figure it out on your own.
They respect us.
And like I said before, this matches the gameplay perfectly. They don't tell you how to do everything in the game from the start because they want you to figure it out and experience it on your own.
They want you to play a game. They made a game, they want you to play it. They don't want everything to be handed to us. It's like, I don't understand. I love this. This is a great video, by the way, so far. This is 100%, I agree with it 100%. Like, when it comes down to it, they want us to just play the game. That's it. We're all gamers, right? We just want to play a game. Elden Ring said, FromSoft said, all right, motherfucker, here you go. Come play a game. And it's beautiful, man. It's beautiful.
They don't tell you what to do because they want you to find your own path. They don't give you a quest log on where to find the next NPC location because it makes it that much more special when you find it on your own. Does it?
And that was my point from earlier. Yes, that can get frustrating if you want to know something specific or whatever. But, and I repeat, but, it's so cool to meet someone, or come across someone rather, in a completely weird location, and you're like, why are you here? And then you can continue. It's just, I don't know. I find that a fun part of the game.
Does it make the experience harder? Absolutely it does. But if everything was easy, then it wouldn't be really worth doing. Most games nowadays think the players have absolutely no brain of their own, and they have to be handheld through every single thing in the game. Some of these
100%.
games don't even let you play the real game until you complete a mundane tutorial, where Elden Ring just lets you walk right past it if that's what you want to do. From Software gives you the freedom.
Fun fact. When I first started, I thought, so once you finish the tutorial section, was it the Cave of Knowledge, right? And you get up to the little cliff thing in the cave where you can jump back down and continue on your path to Limgrave and get in there. You pick up this item, which I come to find out is an emote, I believe, called Strength. And I thought that meant you get +1 strength. It's not what it means. It's an emote. But like the first couple times I played the game, that's what I thought. And looking back on that, that's probably not the best thing to say, but hey, it happens, right?
To do anything that you want to do, and I appreciate their games so much more because of this. The best way that I could put all of this is that the story of Elden Ring is like a painting. When you look at a painting, you're going to have your own interpretation of what that painting means and what it's trying to show you. One person may think something totally different from another about that painting, but it doesn't mean any interpretation is wrong. It's simply just different. Is there anything wrong with that? Of course there isn't. It's a beautiful thing to see others speculate in different ways about something else. But for whatever reason, some people just don't like it when other people think differently from them. Some of my best friends and I think differently about politics, for example. But it doesn't mean that I don't still love them and love being around them as a friend. We just think differently about certain things. It also doesn't mean that they're wrong and I'm right or the other way around. It just means we think differently, and there's nothing wrong with that. When it comes to Elden Ring's lore, it's the same way. I may disagree about a lore theory, but I'd never tell them that they're just straight up wrong, because I have no idea if they're right or wrong, because none of us know. It's just what they think and what I think. We can debate, speculate, and make our own theories, but none of us are right or wrong. We are simply doing
she's probably, so far, she might be my favorite character in the game. Might. Besides Alexander, she might be my favorite character in this game, dude. Very, very fun character.
What the game would.
Last thing, not necessarily the boss fight itself. It was okay, right? I might have been over leveled. I'm not too sure. I have to ask around, see what level people were when they fought her. But for one, She was the first boss I decided for my one of my second characters that I have. I switched it from a strength build and rebirthed it and decided to put all my chips into magic. She was the first boss I used one of the mausoleums for, which we'll get to in a future episode of Why Is It Always Tarnished, the podcast. Um, I really wanted her weapon. I really wanted her clothes for the specific character that I had, and I really wanted the spell that she had. Although I think it costs like 70 intelligence to cast the spell, it is freaking lethal. But yeah, she's one of the best characters in the game for me in terms of maybe not necessarily the boss fight, but her use in the game is pretty cool.
Was designed for us to do. We are meant to come up with our own interpretations based on our own experiences. It is so much fun to watch videos on theories that I may completely disagree with, because I love watching people speculate and create theories. That's a huge part of the fun, and it becomes not as fun when people just argue and complain about a theory that none of us really know any definitive information on. It truly is amazing to see Elden Ring hit the mainstream audience, and it's brought a ton of new players into the...
Is that real? Damn. That's crazy. Sheesh. Props
the game, and I couldn't be happier about that.
Wow.
And obviously, that's going to bring in some players who just do not understand the lore of all the Souls games. I just wanted to talk about this topic as it's something I feel pretty strongly about. So thank you guys for watching, and thank you all so much for 40,000 subscribers. It means the world to me. So just know I appreciate every single one of you. The next video will definitely be another lore video on either Malekith or an updated theory on Gideon Ofnir. So let me know what you want to see next. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.
Let me pause that. Again, shout out to AGT Jake. For those of you watching, I'll shout him out once more. I subscribed and have noties on. Make sure you guys subscribe to him. I'm definitely going to check out some more of his videos in the future, possibly future episodes of the podcast. That way we get some good info, apparently, because this guy was pretty money. It was a more opinion-based video, but I agreed with a lot of the stuff, pretty much everything he said. A lot of the stuff I agree with just based on that. I do have I have another video that I want to check out here. So this is crazy, right? So we talked about it earlier in the podcast about Rena and Ronnie the Witch. Let me go back to her character thing, her character scope on here she is, the wiki. So Rena and Ronnie have become another one of my favorite characters in the game. I'm a big fan of like witch lore, and when I found out there was a witch in this game, I was pumped because I'm actually writing a book on some witch lore and stuff like that. It's a fantasy story. Maybe that's another thing we could talk about later. But I really appreciate like witch lore, so when I found out there was one in the game, I was pumped. And I came across this video. Let me play it real quick. I came across this video, and again, I watched probably like the first 1 or 2 minutes of it just to see if it was something I wanted to show on the stream. Let me say this from what I watched, and again, 2 minutes cap is what I watched, like max. This is probably one of the more like interesting Elden Ring videos that I've seen in recently. She's straight cosplaying the character, giving us dialogue, and then she's also explaining, so it looks like she's explaining the quest and the character. If it gets too spoiler heavy in terms of the quest, I don't really mind, but for future episodes, maybe we won't go too deep into spoiler territory, but at this point, the game's been out for a minute, so I don't think, people really care too much. But let's check this out, because it looks like she put in a lot of effort into this video. We're gonna subscribe, Miss Chalice. She has almost at 10K. Let's try to get her to 10K. Try to get her to 10K. Shout out to Miss Chalice for this video. Let's go ahead and check it out. Let's react to this one. This will probably be the last thing that we do for episode 1 of Why Is It Always Tarnished? Let's check this out.
This way, Tarnished. May I have a word? A pleasure to meet thee, Tarnished. I am the witch Renna.
She did the eye thing too. I'm not gonna lie. I started laughing when I saw that. Because I'm like, bruh, she really closed her eyeball for that. She really closed her eye for this. She's all in, bruh. She put the chips all in for this character, dog.
Or you may know me as Rani. All this and more. The Age of Stars explained. When you first start your journey in the lands between and receive torrent from Melina, if you go to the Church of LA at night time, you will find the start of something special. A bluish purple fog envelops the ruin. The merchant sits with his head bowed. He's unusually quiet and does not acknowledge our presence. A figure.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't remember the merchant not paying attention to us like that. I did not know that. That's 2 things that I've learned so far that I didn't know before. I didn't know that. That's interesting as hell. Okay.
Sits atop the stone wall, under the light of the moon, the one responsible for the slumber. This character introduces themselves to us as Renna, and is very curious about our ability to summon torrent. When we confirm that we indeed can do so, she appears relieved and happy. She tells us that we can be entrusted with this item, an item that Torrent's former master possessed, the Spirit Calling Bell, a necessary item should you wish to use any spirits or summons on your journey.
Shout out to the FromSoft noobs, dude. All in on them summons, cuz.
Should you be bold enough to attack Renna here, she will simply fade away, utterly unbothered by your attempt to try and hurt her. However, she will still leave you the Spirit Calling Bell. This makes me think this is less of a gift she's bestowing onto you, and more of a duty. She was entrusted with this item, and she wishes to uphold her promise by giving the item to us. And speaking of gifts, allow me to introduce my first sponsor, Ray.
I appreciate it. I ain't sponsored by them. You know what I'm saying? It's cool to see her not in cosplay, though. Huh. Alright. Sorry.
Who was Torrent's former master?
Probably
Well, that is a tale for another time. For now, heed Renna's parting words.
I doubt we shall again meet. But all the same, learn well the lands between.
Now that I really think about it, this is a huge line. I doubt we shall meet again. Excuse me. I doubt we shall again meet. But all the same, learn well the lands between. If that ain't exactly what they want you to do and what this game is about, I don't know what is. That's a great quote right here. I doubt we shall meet. We shall again meet, but all the same, learn well the lands between. That's crazy, man. That's a great line right there. Bar.
How long will it be, I wonder, before the tarnished tire of obeisance to the 2 fingers?
Remember these words, as they will be key in explaining her character and her motivations. Now, despite her saying that we won't meet again, this will be untrue if you travel to a place called the Three Sisters, west of Karia Manor. There are 3 towers here, and you will be able to immediately access one of them. Who we once knew as Renna reveals her true identity to us, Rani the Witch. This explains why this particular tower is called Rani's Rise. Rani tells us that she wishes to overthrow this world's order,
that I might one day upend the whole of it, and rid the world of all that came before. Well, has that roused thy interest?
She's specifically referring to the 2 fingers, and should you wish to join her in this mission, you can agree to serve her. This is the crucial turning point where average From Software consumer becomes a Rani appreciator. All memes aside, serving a mysterious witch in her quest to break the shackles of society is a fantastic story to be a part of. Now, if you agree to doing so, Rani will comment, not many would have accepted this offer. Going against the 2 fingers is considered blasphemy. The two fingers are interpreters of the greater will. The greater will being the closest thing there is to a divine godlike being. You will indeed be embarking on a dark path if you choose to defy them. Now this is partly why Rani introduces herself as Rena when you first...
Hold up, though. Yo. How? Trust me, trust me when I say this, I'm taking in the information. I understand what you're saying. How in the hell is she continuing to do that with her eye? She ain't even like twitching it. How does she do that? She freaking glue her eyeball shut, dude? This is fantastic cosplay, bro. Crazy.
She's hiding her identity because she has a reputation. I stole death long ago refers to the rune of death. I explained more about this in my Malekith video if you're interested in checking that out. Essentially,
we will check that out later on a different episode, but we're definitely going to watch that.
The rune of death gives you the power to kill demigods, and Rani stole a piece of this to end herself. What we know is that Rani's spirit is alive and inhabiting this dull body. Now, whether Rani knew this would happen when she used the rune of death is unclear. Sadly, she may have just decided that she simply did not want to live in this world any longer, under the control of the two fingers. And her solution to this was to end it all. Regardless, she still lives on, and this second spectral face we see is quite literally her spirit.
That's so cool, man. What if she... I'm not even gonna get into it.
Rani's real physical body can be found in this game. This isn't what Rani looks like. These frazzled ashen remains is what was left of Rani after she used the rune of death. Only 2 arms. So why does Rani's body have 4 arms?
Whoa!
Well, there's a reason for this.
Wait. How you do that?
Arms. So why...
Also...
What was left of Rani after she used...
Burnt? That's when you put toast on 6 in the toaster, bro? Or like 7? That's what it looks like, dude. Weirdos like toast like that, bro. Old people eat toast that looks just like that, dude. Specifically her head region. Burnt.
The rune of death. Only 2 arms. So why does Rani's body have 4 arms?
How you do that?
Well, there's a reason for this also. Back at the Three Sisters, there is another tower called Rena's Rise. You can find a chest there with an armor set inside called the Snow Witch set. Upon reading the item description, we get an amazing lore find. Once worn by the snowy crone, who the young Rani encountered deep in the woods. She was a witch, and well versed in cold sorceries. It is said that the doll that houses Rani's soul was modelled after her. That old witch was Rani's secret mentor. And looking at the armor, we can see it's an exact replica of what Rani is wearing.
I did pick up the doll. I have the doll that you get. I'm pretty sure I'm like a good amount done with her quest line. I'm not finished with it. But I'm on the part with the doll and I have no idea what to do. I have no idea.
So we know now that Rani had a witch teacher who had 4 arms, which just seems to open up more questions. Who is the Snow Witch and what kind of creature is she?
And why on God's green earth you have 4 arms, dude? You know how many freaking wings you can eat with 4 arms, dude?
Why does she have 4 arms? I have to know. Well, let's think about all the creatures that there are in the lands between, and which ones of these have 4 arms.
Those ugly freaking things that shoot the double bows at you. I hate those pieces of garbage, dude.
Well, we know that marionette soldiers have 4 arms for the purpose of attacking. More arms equals more weapons, so that means more attack power to protect the academy. Their purpose is to protect and stop intruders from entering the institute. These soldiers appear to have multiple...
I just realized something. Shoot. I wanna join her I wanna join her video theme with a nice switch in light color real quick. Try to get a little bit more close to what her video looks like. That way we're not standing out too much, alright, dude? Let's check it out.
Arms wielding more than one weapon, making them unpredictable in regards to how they will strike. However, we haven't seen any sorcerer
General Grievous face ass, dude.
Type marionette soldiers in the academy, only ones able to perform physical attacks, so it seems unlikely that the Snow Witch was a marionette soldier. The second theory is that the Snow Witch could have been a wraith caller. They have 4 arms, and the word crone would be a suitable descriptor for how they look like. Wraith callers, as their name suggests, are able to summon spirits by using calling bells. Rani is associated with spirit summoning, and she uses spirits in Renala's boss fight in Phase 2. I explained this in my Renala video if you want to check it out. So
we will watch that as well in a later episode of this podcast.
This may explain where Rani learned how to summon spirits. The witch taught her this school of magic. And the third theory is a little bit more complex. Kindred of Rot. These guys, who have more than 4 limbs, but they definitely seem to use their main front 4 ones. The Snow Witch...
I'm not even gonna lie, those might be more annoying than the freaking marionette ones, dude. Damn.
Witch's robe is very concealing, and may I say spacious. This would provide ample room to hide additional limbs. There is a large encampment of these kindreds by the Lake of Rot before the Astel boss fight, and this is significant.
Yo, honestly, this is a great video. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not even trying to gas. Like, this is freaking amazing. Just simply amazing, guys. The amount of effort put in. Let me just respond to this message real quick. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. But this is the type of effort that, in my opinion, deserves like way more viewers. She has 12,000 subscribers, which is a lot, but I'm just saying, like, let's get her like 50k, 100k, dude.
Because after defeating Astel,
cool as hell.
We get access to a chest that holds a powerful spell, Rani's Dark Moon. The description for this reads, the moon was encountered by a young Rani, led by the hand of her mother, Renala. What she beheld was cold, dark, and veiled in occult mystery. This is foreshadowing Rani's fate and her subsequent questline. But how does this relate to her mentor? Well, there is actually a school of cold sorceries, and their descriptions say...
I haven't looked at these too much.
There is actually a school of cold...
A duelist moonblade. Okay. Glintstone ice crag. Freezing mist, frozen armament. Oh, that's cool as heck. Okay. And then there's a more ice stone.
Sorceries, and their descriptions say the snowy crone taught the young Rani to fear the dark moon as she imparted her cold sorcery. The Snow Witch knew that the dark moon would usher in something to be feared. We know that Renala essentially became insane from worshipping the moon. She has her own moon, Renala's full moon, which is described as enchanting and bewitching. So either the Snow Witch knew that this dark moon was a sign of bad things to come. Rani and the dark moon have their fates entwined. And we know this is what happens during Rani's ending. In the cutscene, we see a dark moon. But let's not jump ahead just yet. It's not confirmed what kind of creature this Snow Witch is or was, but there is still the unanswered question. Why is she blue? It could be a kind of creature that we haven't yet discovered in the lands.
Why is she blue? She listens to that song, dude. That I'm Blue song. Strike Warrior's been playing it, dude. Crazy.
Between. The blue skin may be a much more literal way of portraying her character. In a state of constant cold, your skin would quite literally turn blue. Not much more is known about the Snow Witch's identity, but it can't be a coincidence that the Snow Witch's armour is found in a place called Renna's Rise, and that Rani introduces herself as Renna when we first meet.
Again,
someone whose doll form was crafted in the image of this mentor. So it's very likely that the Snow Witch's name might have been Renna, or it simply could just be that Renna is a name that Rani came up with to disguise her true identity. Our next part of the quest is to find the hidden treasure of Nokron. This treasure is in fact a weapon, the Finger Slayer Blade. From the name alone, it's clear what the purpose of this item is. Finger Slayer cannot be wielded by those without a fate, but is said to be able to harm the Greater Will and its vassals. Oh, wow. It is Rani's fate to defeat her 2 fingers. When we give Rani this blade, she thanks us and embarks on her journey. A portal gate will now be open at Renna's Rise. After being transported to Ainsel River Main, you find a tiny doll. It's a miniature Rani. You will get the option to speak to this doll when resting at a grace. Although the doll won't talk to you immediately, you have to pester her 3.
See, that's the thing. Do I have to go to that specific grace, or... Because I've tried it in other locations, I can't do it. I have the doll. I don't know if I screwed the quest up by doing something I wasn't supposed to, but I can't seem to do it. Maybe I'll have to check the location again?
You find a tiny doll open at Renna's Rise. After being transported to Ainsel River, Maine, you find a tiny doll.
Maybe
It's
I'll
a
have to go back,
miniature
I'm not
Rani.
sure.
You will get the option to speak to this doll when resting at a grace. Although the doll won't talk to you immediately, you have to pester her 3 times before she relents and talks to you. It seems that Rani is using her ability as a spirit to possess inanimate dolls and is hiding in this one. Well, why is
Taking over Barbies or what, dude?
she hiding? Rani goes into detail about her relationship with the 2 fingers.
I stole the rune of death, slew mine own Imperium flesh,
Oh.
casting it away. I would not be controlled by that thing. The 2 fingers and I have been cursing each other ever since, and the baleful shadows are their assassins.
She tasks us with taking out a nearby assassin so that she may continue undetected. Doing so will reward us with a key. This key unlocks the chest in Renala's room. Inside the chest is a beautiful ring depicting a leaden full moon. Symbolic of a cold oath, the ring is supposed to be given by Lunar Princess Rani to her consort. Rani is an Empyrean, meaning her consort would by rights earn the title of Lord. A warning is engraved within. Whoever thou mayest be, take not the ring from this place. The solitude beyond the night is better mine alone. Essentially, Rani has written, hands off, I'd rather be by myself, which is rather in keeping with her character. We need this ring to unlock the next area. I'd rather be by myself, mine alone. Essentially, Rani has written, hands off, I'd rather be by myself.
Dude, she literally, her eyeball has been closed this entire time. She's with it, dude.
Which is rather in keeping with her character.
This is...
We need this ring. Hands off, I'd rather be by myself, which is rather in keeping with her character.
She does have a second eye.
We need this ring to
That's
unlock the
awesome,
next
man.
area after the boss fight with Astel. This area is called Manus Celis, which means heavenly hand. You might be able to see where this is going. This is the place where Rani's 2 fingers inhabit. Upon entering, we are greeted by the sight of a bloodied and unclothed Rani. You can see her porcelain skin is broken in places, revealing the twine material that makes up her doll body.
Whoa.
She sits at the base of the 2 fingers. They tower over her, motionless and fatally wounded. A pair of Rani's arms appear broken too. She's clearly taken a toll from the fight that ensued, and now is sitting lifeless. Or perhaps she is simply stunned, processing the weight of her actions, frozen still. We, the Tarnished, kneel in front of her, lift her hand, and place the ring on her finger,
Will you
her
marry
ring
me?
finger. This is such a pure and surprisingly romantic moment for a From Software game.
She got her nails
Rani
done,
looks
or
so
what's all about,
frail
man?
and is at her most vulnerable here. A contrast from her
Nails-
usual
nails
demeanour.
done, hair done,
The action
everything
of
big,
placing
dude.
the
What's
ring
up, Rick?
on Rani's finger
Shit.
restores her previous appearance, despite the ring's description dictating that Rani must be the one to give the ring to her chosen lord. She happily goes along with our proposal. Now that Rani has defeated her last obstacle, we must defeat ours, in order for us to establish this new world order.
And once all is done, we shall see each other once more.
This is such a comforting statement from Rani. Before, Rani was dismissive and cold. Now she has opened up herself to the Tarnished, and seeing her development is heartwarming. Side note, if you are so chaotically inclined that you wish to attack Rani at this moment after giving her the ring, she will say,
It is precisely what I deserve for surrendering myself to delusion.
this
Jeez, yeah.
confirms that Rani has put all of her trust into us. Surrendering to delusion suggests that she has willingly become enamored with the Tarnished, and as a result her judgment has dulled, accepting this as a consequence. We are more than just her
I mean, imagine
underling,
getting to that
we are
part
her
of the hangar.
partner
What a
now.
dingling,
As
dude.
we proceed to the endgame, we can actually talk to the miniature Rani again. Rani's spirit is still inhabiting the doll. This dialogue gives us an insight into what Rani's ending will entail.
Mine will be an order not of gold, but the stars and moon of the chill night.
This is a reference to the Golden Order, the laws that govern the lands between, defined by the greater will and the outer gods.
I would keep them far from the earth beneath our feet.
Rani wants her world to be under a more cosmic power, the moon that she has always been fascinated by. Rani may be saying that she metaphorically wants to be detached from the Golden Order, far away from them. Or she may be saying that her order will quite literally inhabit the stars far up in the sky.
As it is now,
Her eyes getting
Order
tired.
will quite
bro.
literally detached from the Golden Order, far away from them. Or Or she may be saying that her order will quite literally inhabit the stars far
Her
up
eyes
in the
getting
sky.
tired. She's put in so much work, bro. Her eyeball is starting to open up again, dude.
Life
I love
and
it.
souls and order are bound tightly together. But I would have them at a great remove.
This suggests that Rani wants to completely undo everything that the Order has previously enforced, going to the very polar opposite. Spirituality, sensation, and emotion will no longer exist in her world. However, it has been brought to players' attention that some of the game's dialogue, specifically Rani's lines, may have been mistranslated, or rather, the original meaning has been lost. First, the dialogue is translated from Japanese into English, and then it needs to be formatted into this old-fashioned dialect that's in keeping with the game's tone. A more accurate translation of these lines are, if it was not possible to clearly see, feel, believe in, or touch the Order, that would be better. Instead, Rani may be saying that an order is best when it is not so clearly defined. Physical things like the Erd Tree and the Two Fingers are fearsome reminders to submit to the power that governs the world. Rani wishes to transcend the physical realm and explore the flexibility that comes with her free spirit.
Damn, that's
After
crazy.
defeating the Elden
What a
Beast,
visual
we
that
can
is.
summon the ability that comes with
That's
her
crazy.
free spirit.
Trolls.
After defeating the Elden Beast, we can summon Rani and witness her ending. Rani conjures this dark moon, which we explored before, even referencing how this journey, like the moon, will be cold, dark, and lonely. Yet she extends her hand towards us to go together into the unknown. If you spoke to Miniature Rani before entering the final fight, her last words will be different, more affectionate. Here is the difference.
Well then, shall we, my fair consort eternal? Let us go together, my dear consort eternal.
Rani knows for certain
That's
that
interesting.
under her new order,
Small
all
but
will be
interesting.
free from the Elden Ring, the Fingers, and the Golden Order.
I do solemnly swear to every living being
Take his
and
head.
every living soul, now cometh the age of the stars.
And promises everyone that they will be master of their own fate and live freely under the stars. The Age of Stars is truly the best ending. So these were my thoughts on the Age of Stars and Rani's character. There's so much more to explore in terms of Rani's War Council, e.g. Blyde. Please let me know if you'd like me to cover these great characters, as they do have so much to do with Rani. I really hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed Rani telling you the lore. If you want to see more of my cosplay, you can check me out on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok as well. Thank you so much for everyone recommending that I should do this, and I hope you
That's
enjoyed.
awesome, man.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Awesome. That's awesome, man. My related videos are so different from Elden Ring. My goodness. So yeah, that's Miss Chalice. What a great video again. I'm really interested to see what other videos that she has. I actually kind of want to check that out. Okay, so that was the last one she did a week ago. She did one on Selin, Malekith, and Garunk. Yeah, well, this is something we'll probably get into this. Maybe we'll showcase another one of her videos in episode 2. But with that being said, that's going to wrap it up, guys, for episode 1 of Why Is It Always Tarnished, the podcast here on Twitch. For those of you who will be obviously watching this when it comes out later, I appreciate anyone that comes through. If you are brand new, please hit that follow button. I'm also on Twitter at Gerent Heights, as well as YouTube at Gerent Heights. Or not necessarily at, but Gerent Heights is the username for basically everything I have. I have Twitter, I have Instagram, and also if you're interested in joining the Discord, me and my good buddy Strike Warrior are on that as well. I call that House of Heights. So if you guys want to get to know me a little bit better, I'm very interested in making a really awesome community of people, of gamers, all walks of life. So if you are interested in joining me on that journey, come on through, man. We have no judgment on this side. We welcome anybody to come through and enjoy it. But yeah, if you guys want to enjoy some Elden Ring, I will be live streaming tomorrow from 2 to 6 p.m. On my Xbox. I will be streaming from there on Twitch from 2 to 6 p.m. with my character Commander Von Lenser, the Banished Knight Commander Von Lenser. As well as Sunday, we will also be streaming from 2 to 6 p.m. And then it all starts again next week, Friday, 9 p.m. We will go ahead and hit up episode 2 of Why Is It Always Tarnished podcast. Look out for anything else during the week. Have finals for class this week. So I'm hoping I can even maybe do a enjoyable little live stream maybe Wednesday night to celebrate, or Thursday night before we get it cracking on our set schedule we have Friday through Sunday. But yeah, man, with that being said, this was super fun. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you do check this out, again, I appreciate it. We will see you guys on the next episode, man. Gerent Heights. Up out this thing, man. Deuces.